Hello everybody. So in today's YouTube video, I am going to get into details about finances, about stocks, cryptocurrency, banks. The reason I'm doing this is because, at my job, I've heard a lot of people have come up to me and said that they don't know anything about stocks, don't know anything about bonds, don't know anything about crypto, which is kind of surprising that we're in almost 2022 at this point and people still don't know anything about that. So hopefully my YouTube video kind of gives you a general idea, gives you a better understanding of what these financial benefits are. So let's begin. So the first thing that I want to talk about, I want to talk about stocks. Stocks basically is part ownership of a publicly traded company. And when you buy a stock, you basically are buying a part of a company. So when you buy a stock, for example, Pepsi, you can legitimately say that you are a part owner of Pepsi Cola. So basically, when you buy a stock, not only are you buying ownership of a company, but you're buying also an investment in the company. So basically, you're giving a certain amount of money for a share. So Pepsi, I believe, a couple of days ago was $165. I don't know what it is now. So you pay $165. You're buying ownership of the company, and you're buying investment in the company on the grounds that the company is going to return you a profit. Now, the first piece of advice I'm going to give you is, you can invest with any type amount of money that you have. So whether it's $1 million, whether it's $20, my piece of advice for you, though, if you don't have a lot of money, you're better off buying the lower priced stocks than you are buying Pepsi. If you have $200, for example, it doesn't make sense for you to buy one Pepsi, where you could easily buy, for example, 20 shares of a stock that costs $10. So that's just, my personal tip to you. So getting back to stocks for a second, what stocks also do is they provide you a return. Now, there's two ways to provide a return. There's capital gains and the dividends. Capital gains are basically the profits that a company makes that you earn as a return of the investment. So basically, you buy Pepsi Cola for $165, the stock goes up to $200, you just made $35 profit off of that. The other way of return is dividends. Now, Pepsi, for example, does pay over $1 quarterly dividends. If you're going to buy a stock, I would recommend you do research and you look into companies that actually pay dividends, because you're going to get a better return. Not always, but you're more likely to get a more consistent return. When it comes to buying stock too, as a beginner, I would recommend you buy a blue chip stock. Blue chip stocks are basically like legit companies that are stable, that aren't really going to go up or down, but you're going to basically make enough money where you won't be bankrupt. That's the first thing. In regards to stock, also, I personally recommend buy stock, because my next topic I'm going to discuss is banks, obviously. And you have a much better opportunity of making a profit off of stocks than you do, putting your money in the bank account. Now, I should give a detailed explanation and say when you put money in the stocks that you also risk losing your money. Now, one of the common myths that I want to crush is, a lot of people that hear say, oh, I don't put money in the stock market because you can lose it all. That is true. You could lose everything. But more in reality, more people profit than they do lose. If you actually look at the history of stocks, over the long term, you're more likely to gain off than you're more likely to lose. But that goes back to research. If you're going to buy a stock, you want to do research on the stock. You want to make sure the stock, is credible, that there's a purpose for the stock to be around. Because again, this is your money you're investing here. Now, if you're investing with someone else's money, well, lucky you. And then you can also, invest in anything you really want and be careless. But I'd recommend do research. Just, for example, Motley Fool, just Google the company, Pepsi Cola investor relations, and kind of get a better understanding of what the company does, what are the returns, what's the industry doing in general. You obviously right now, pharmaceuticals with COVID are doing very well right now. So consumer demand is doing very well right now. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, other companies like that. So you kind of have to look into what you want to invest. If you want to invest in a stock that's $2, if you want to buy, for example, try to buy Apple, Google, a technology stock, then that's your prerogative. So the next topic I want to discuss are banks. So basically, banks offer checking accounts, savings accounts, certificate of deposits, short-term CDs. Um, those are pretty much the three main things that banks offer. Now, the reason I kind of said earlier you'll make more likely to make a profit off stocks than you are putting money into the bank is because the returns on banks are just pathetic right now. They're terrible. Um, so let me break it down. A checking account is basically an account that you can technically use checks for. Now, obviously, a lot of banks don't issue checks anymore. A lot of them require you actually have to pay if you want checks. You have to pay out of pocket if you want checks. And basically, they issue you a debit card, and you can use a debit card as basically as if you're writing checks. Now, several warnings I want to give you about checking accounts. First of all, if you overdraft, the fees are going to be astronomically ridiculous. And also, same thing about stocks, same thing with checking accounts. You need to do your research. A lot of banks now, unfortunately, because of, I want to say, greed, corruption, there's a lot of limitations and a lot of restrictions in regards to having a checking account. For example, a lot of the banks mandate that in order to waive the fee, you need to have $500 daily balance in there, or you need to have $200 per month deposited into the accounts. So again, just do your research. If I were you, I'd recommend doing a credit union over a bank. You're more likely to get a better return because there's not shareholder profits involved in a credit union. Credit union tends to be more localized, more basically backdoor type community setting where banks, they're corporate. Majority of them really don't care. A savings account, banks offer a savings account, but they're very same thing though. Do your research. I believe Capital One offers one of the best interest rates in a savings account. They offer I know they have a special account which is 0.4%, which is still pathetic, but if you want to keep your money in a place where you easily have access to, that would be my recommendation. Or you can go to bankreg.com and you can find out what their most recent rates are for check savings accounts. But the same thing with savings accounts though. I know a lot of banks, for example, require you have a minimum deposit in the savings account in order for it to earn interest. And a lot of them do what's called ladder approaches. For example, if you have under $50,000, you earn X amount. If you may have over 50,000 to 250,000, you earn blank amount, which is more than if you had under 50,000. That's, I guess, is good. If you just want to have your money in there, but in today's market rates, you're not going to find a very good return. Certificate of deposit, what is that? So what that is basically certificate of deposit basically means that you put your money into the bank and you tell them, okay, you can have my money for a certain amount of time, anywhere from typically 3 months all the way to about 5 years. The most common one is 6 months, but I've seen CDs for about 3 months. These pay more than savings accounts, but they're not much better off. Again, you're better off putting your money in the stock market than you are putting money into a CD. Because again, you lock up the money, and then if you want to withdraw the money, there's going to be penalty. Typically 3 months interest penalty. But again, banks in general, the returns are just absolutely terrible. So now let's get into bonds. I want to bring a bond. So basically, what is a bond? A bond is basically a loan that companies give out in order to raise revenue. So when you buy a bond, a corporate bond, for example, from a company, for example, I own a corporate bond in BMO Harris, they basically are loaning out money in exchange of giving you a return at a set rate, and also not always a set rate. So let me backtrack a second here. When you buy a corporate bond, what you're doing basically is you're buying a loan from a company to raise revenue in exchange of a time limit and also a return. Now, this gets a little confusing, so I'm going to try to break it down to make it very easy as possible to understand. So, majority of the bonds, you need $1,000 to buy. Corporate bonds, you need about $1,000. Now, there are municipal bonds, which cities, counties, states, private companies issue municipal bonds too. Publicly traded companies too issue municipal bonds. And basically, you buy about $1,000 increments worth. Now, the easy way to explain this, you can either buy it at a discount or you can buy it at over par. So basically, the average face value of a bond is $1,000. But let's say, for example, like what I did is I bought a bond for $937. So when the bond matures, I'm going to make a profit of over $60. And when you buy a bond, you want to look at what's called the coupon. The coupon is basically interest. Now, majority of the bonds pay every 6 months. That's just the standard protocol for bonds. Now, again, some pay monthly. So I don't want to group all of them in the same category, but majority of them pay every 6 months. And you're going to have two different types of coupons. You're going to have what's called a fixed rate, which basically, for example, make it easy math, 10%. So 10% of $1,000 is $100. So basically, you're going to earn that divided by 2, so you're going to earn $50 every 6 months, to make it easy math. However, there's something called variable rates. Now, I don't want to get too detailed into this because they have different settings, but variable rates could base it off of what's called the lender rate, which is basically the London exchange, what banks are exchanging at each other. Because banks do loan each other money, so that's what's called the lender rate. So, I'm not going to get too detailed into that because again, I'm trying to keep this short and keep this very simplistic. The third type of investment is cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency, you've heard that a lot. There is a lot of risk. Yes, there is a lot of risk. As a beginner, if you put money into cryptocurrency, my piece of advice for you is that there's going to be risk with that. Yes, cryptocurrency is too new for me to really recommend you put money in there. However, there is cryptocurrency that is evolving. Everything evolves. I would recommend that you open up an account either through Nexo, through BlockFi.com, Blockchain.com. They have what's called stable currency savings accounts. So basically, a stable currency is a coin that you buy that is guaranteed. Means is pegged to the dollar, which means it won't go up, it won't go down. So basically, it's equivalent to having a savings account, but the rates are going to be astronomically higher. You put money into blockchain account, you're going to earn 9% interest. You put money into blockchain, some of the stable currencies pay 13.5%, others a little less. Nexo, I'm not really sure. I know it varies from 9 to potentially 20%. But again, you put money in there and the money is going to grow at an astronomically much higher rate than if you put any money into banks. So that's what I was saying earlier about, banks are really pretty much a disastrous option right now if you're trying to get a return. The best thing about banks, though, is you have the most access to your money. It's easy to access. Cryptocurrency, you may have to, if you want the free. Now, obviously, cryptocurrency, you can transfer money within seconds, but the problem is there's going to be a fee with that. If you want to do it free, it's going to take you have to wait a couple days. So that's my recommendation. Now, cryptocurrency also, the most common ones are blockchain, Ethereum. You've heard of Shiba Inu, which is obviously bought by a lot of investors, hoping that it pops. But again, if you're a rookie investor, I'd recommend you stay away from those type of coins. Not to say they're going to grow, but I'd recommend you buy coins that are secure and that are pegged to the dollar, because you're more likely to make a better return, unless you have money you're willing to risk. Now, cryptocurrency is too new, and again, I would recommend, if I could give you my preference in regards to making profits, it would be stocks, number one. Number two would be bonds. Number three would be crypto. Number four would be banks. That's how I would do it. So hopefully this video was a quick synopsis for those of you who really don't know anything about investing, finances. One more thing about stocks, some of you may ask, well, where do I buy stocks? Well, you have to open up a broker's account. Now, a lot of banks offer broker's accounts. I would recommend, E-Trade. There's minimal fees. I personally like E-Trade the best. Now, again, there's many other options out there. There's Charles Schwab, so on and so on. But again, I use E-Trade. I like E-Trade. So yeah. Now, I just want to say that what I'm giving you is not financial advice, obviously. And I'm just kind of giving you a summary of potentially, if you're interested in investing, basically, an understandable version of it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to do additional videos about finances down the road. One of the things that I want to do a video on is I'm going to do a video on is understanding the economy, understanding inflation, understanding what's going on right now. I'm still doing more research to get some more a better understanding of certain things I want to talk about. So again, hopefully everyone enjoys this, and hopefully you learned something today. And thank you for watching.